There it is. We're off and running.
We're going to find out. That's why we're doing the test run.
Yeah, this is going to be a test run. Yeah, absolutely.
Greetings, everybody. This is Dave. And that's Dan. We're the Boston boys. The boys from Boston. The boys from Brazil.
No, I'm not sure I'd go that far.
Yeah. Yeah. So
original or I guess original origin is Quincy, Mass. That's where I was. I'm a product of Quincy, Massachusetts.
Close enough.
In the United States of America.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wasn't your fault. It's your parents' fault.
Well, I had no choice in the matter. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Unbelievable. So today is Monday, the
6th of July. 6th of July.
6th
which
of
I can't
July.
believe. Which I can't believe.
Oh, years are half over. And
Look,
it's been
I don't.
a wild year.
It has been, and I really don't want to start off negative or whatever. But this past 4th of July was really not that good for me, just mentally. Just knowing what's going on, right? I mean, we're supposed to celebrate the 4th of July and be happy and grateful for our freedoms and stuff, which we should be and which we still have. You could say to an extent or a large extent, if you want to compare us to a lot of the world, right? But at the same time, the reality is, at least in my humble opinion, these things are diminishing, right? Day by day. Just my opinion. Right?
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
They're diminishing.
This country does not feel like the country just 30 years ago.
I agree.
I mean, back when we were in school.
Well, yeah, and I don't even. But to me, the biggest.
Well, 9/11 was the end. That's when the country died, in my opinion. And that's when the criminals that be realized the American people would do nothing. I mean, I think they were shocked how easy it was to pull the wool over their eyes. So why not continue the charade?
Well, what I was going to say was it's been the last 20 years where I've seen just basically a downward trajectory in so many things. And it's just amazing how there are people that debate me on that, certain friends and family in particular, they just literally, vociferously, outright, whatever, vehemently would oppose me on those things, I guess I could start getting specific, but I don't know if it's appropriate in this forum to do that.
Well, let's just follow up on what we were talking about yesterday. And because, we've done this several times before where we call up something and it's very appropriate for whatever. What is this?
You're pulling up Bible verses? So you think that I'm being facetious? You think the Bible verses and a lot of the Bible is still appropriate? Because it's amazing how many people I've had say to me over the years that they think
John 13:34.
Yep, how they think the Bible is outdated, antiquated. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what they'll say about the Constitution as well.
Exactly. Don't even get me going. Don't get me going.
Are you still seeing the screen?
I see it. And all, when people start saying that about the Bible, every single time it's like, go check out Ecclesiastes. It's
All right,
in
pal.
there.
Here's the verse of the day. A new command I give you: love one another, as I have loved you. So you must love one another.
Wow.
And now that's that is we were talking yesterday about how your dad references things from the Bible. He doesn't even know it's the Bible. And this is another one. I mean, you hear people say, love one another, and they,
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
who was that?
Because
Malcolm X?
well, you know what it is, because it just becomes such a common thing that they think it's just a pure, colloquialism or slangism or whatever, right? A worldly thing that somebody along the way thought of, right?
Yeah.
When in fact, so many of these sayings have an ultimate origin that trace right back into the Bible. And a lot of people, especially these days, maybe I shouldn't say a lot, get myself in trouble, but probably a good portion don't realize that, because, a lot of people don't. How many people look at the Bible, or read it in any way, shape, or form? Most don't. I don't think,
Well, that's
in this
one of the
society, in
things.
this
No,
day
I'm
and
serious.
age.
That's one of the things that I want to do with you on this. Is it's like having a buddy going to the gym, right? So this will be a buddy to read the Bible with, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if there's anything wrong with that, but
Wrong with what? Doing this,
yeah,
reading
I mean,
with someone?
yeah, I mean,
Well,
I
this
mean,
is a form. Well, this is a form of a Bible study, really. I mean, when I was in North Carolina for a while, on Monday nights, I went to a Bible study for a while, meeting up with other guys, about a half dozen of us. I wasn't really leading it; I was participating. Yeah, it's called a Bible study. We actually, to your point, Dave, if we could start a Bible study like this online, just like we're doing now, if we wanted to. And
well, anytime I post something online, and this is probably why I don't have a lot of subscribers, I do it for myself. You know what I mean? I do it because it's cathartic for me. And
uh-huh.
when I do these videos
Mm-hmm.
of either my music or my trips or a
Mm.
rant, it's because it's something that it's almost like I'm documenting, you know, a day from my life or an
What you
experience from
are.
my life.
It's a
And
slice
then,
of your life,
well,
100%.
the reason I started doing the videos because I had all this footage from my trips, but
Yeah.
when we were living together, and you're like, "Hey, Dave, why don't you post that online?" And I was like, well, "That's not a bad idea," because I was thinking, you know, um, I was thinking at the time that guarantees. Well, this is what I was thinking back then. I'm not sure it's true, but I was thinking, hey, it's almost like having my own cloud, right? All my memories will be up online where I can send them to my family or my friends or, you know.
Well, absolutely. And, it's very interesting that you just touched on something, that the internet is becoming more and more integral by the minute in everybody's lives. I mean, everybody's stuck on their phones constantly, iPads, laptop, whatever. The internet is becoming more and more, if you will, of the backbone and nerve center for everything.
Yeah.
That's good and it's bad. It's good and it's bad. And you can take the memories from your head now and you can post them essentially on the internet, right? Because you have the ability with technology to create voice, video, and data file, right? A recording, right?
Yeah.
Like you walking on the Great Wall of China, a portion of it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And throw it up on the internet. And that can live in perpetuity at that point.
Did you watch
Long
that
after.
video of me losing my shorts?
I haven't
Okay.
seen it yet. No.
Oh,
I'll look at it.
oh,
Yep.
okay.
No.
I thought that was pretty funny. Well,
Yeah.
it
No,
wasn't
I'm
funny at the
sure it
time.
is.
Funny now, but
I'm sure it's funny now. I'm sure at the time, the
oh, it's
ordeal
dramatic.
and then walking out of the water wasn't funny, right?
Well, I wasn't
So,
even thinking about that. I was like, I was like, I was almost killed, and I'm very glad to be alive.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And that'll teach you next time. Maybe if you wear Euro briefs, that wouldn't happen, right? Instead of big boxers, they would have stayed on.
Uh,
Maybe
I
not.
thought it. Well, I thought I had really snug pants on. Well, I'll tell
You
you,
know,
it's
like my relatives in Europe, I remember when I went to visit them, I was the American guy, pasty white, walking around in boxers, and they were just like,
wearing your marble bags. Yeah.
but they were the
Europeans
opposite,
Yeah, well, no,
you
the
know?
Europeans love those things. The
Oh
Speedo.
yeah, they were wearing those, and I was like, they were looking at me like, and I'm looking at them like, we're looking at each other.
You won't catch me dead in those.
I'm like, well, and that's what I said to
I mean,
them.
I'm too fat for them, number one, but number two, I would probably rip them.
Well, I was going to say, look, you wouldn't catch me in them either, but then they're probably thinking you wouldn't catch me in those things. So it's just
Yeah.
funny how it goes back and forth. We throw it back at each other, you know?
Yeah, well, that down in New Mexico, I mean, there's people disappearing all the time.
Where? Mexico?
Yeah, yeah, down in Florida where I go. People go out to
Excuse
the
me.
Pacific and they never come back.
Right.
There's
Right.
one beach they call the Beach of the Dead.
Really?
Yeah, it's where,
God.
and it's, I don't know if it's as prevalent now as it was back in the 70s, but back in the 70s, I guess it was a real, for lack of a better word, like druggy community, like guys who use psychedelics and
Right.
more heavier stuff than just marijuana. And they would be like tripping and they'd go out into the waters to go
Oh,
swimming.
jeez.
And the water where this is down in Mazunte, I think it is the Beach of the Dead. And it's really difficult waters there. And if you're an expert swimmer, it's difficult. So if you go
Forget
out
that.
there and you're like kind of out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if this is true, but people would tell me there'd be like several people a day disappear.
A day.
You're gone.
God.
Just out to the
Well-
Pacific.
Well, yeah, and you know how
What a
squirrely
waste.
the Pacific can be, right? I mean,
Well, that time I told you I swam like 3/4 of a mile out. It's
yeah, that's a long way, man.
yeah. Well, I
You wouldn't.
didn't.
I
Really,
wouldn't do that.
well, I was trying to catch up to the whales, but I had
Yeah.
the only way
Wow.
I'd go out there. I had a pair of flippers, and you wouldn't go out there without flippers. You'd never get back in because of the undertow.
Right.
But what happened was I got out there, and it went from warm water. All of a sudden, this streak of ice cold water went right in there, and it felt like a chill right through my body.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's when it shocked me to like, Dave, you're a little bit too far.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
so that's when I noticed. I mean, it was so far, Dan, that the house is like this big from the beach, and I'm like, this is probably not the smartest thing I've done. So
Yeah, that's a long way out. That's just
well, with flippers,
yeah.
flippers, it's not that hard. I'm telling you, you put on a pair of those flippers, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you can move through the water very easily.
True. Yeah, I mean, true. It's a double-edged sword, though, because
Yeah,
you can
I mean-
move through the water so easily. To your point, you can be a half mile or a mile out.
Yeah,
in,
it's effortless, really.
in no time.
Yeah, it's and plus, I wasn't trying to be Mark Spitz out there. I mean, I was just taking my time, just
Yeah.
using my flippers, and I was so I had my eye on trying to catch up to the whales.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a pod of whales out there, and I got out to where they were, and
my
they
God.
moved out farther, so I followed them, and I just couldn't. Obviously, if they didn't want to be caught, they weren't going to be caught. So
Of course not.
that would have been cool.
That would have been cool, but that would have been a double-edged sword as well. I mean, what if you had caught up to them?
Well, I think, I mean, as long as they don't like breach and come down on me.
Right.
Like I've seen like videos of that where those things jump up and, you know, it's coming down and it's like right next to a boat.
Yeah.
And the boat gets rocked.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing, powerful. They do stuff effortlessly. Yeah, absolutely.
So what was that verse in the Bible again? Do you remember it?
The one you just pulled up?
Mm-hmm.
It was John 13:38? No.
13:34.
13:34.
What was
Okay.
it? Love one another?
Yeah, love one another. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
And I think it's because he was preparing to leave at that point. He was preparing to, you know,
he
after he died.
He was that before or after he died?
Well, I didn't read the whole verse.
Yeah.
No, maybe because maybe it was before and he was preparing them, but I mean, he did come back after he died, and maybe it was in preparation before he left.
I think so.
Because he knew what was coming.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he started to prepare them as the time drew near. And they started to kind of get bummed out and say, what are you talking about? And, you know, why is that type of thing. Obviously, they took the human perspective, right?
Well, you know,
but he knew what was coming and what had to be done. So,
well, you and I are both old enough now, and you don't necessarily have to be old, but as you age, it's more likely to happen where you're going to suffer loss in your life, right? You lost somebody, whether due to relationship or death, or could be any type of relationship, and some of them are more painful than others. And some of them, maybe you never get over some of them, right? And but that simple verse, love one another, I mean, that is so hard to do for a lot of people, I think. Because, especially now, you said this wasn't a good weekend. I mean, I think so many people are overwhelmed right now that they're just trying to survive.
I totally agree. I mean, if you think about it, you know, we were supposed to be this past weekend, rah, rah, you know, woohoo, and we're the best, and let's celebrate. Really? What about the 50 million people, or 45 million, whatever it is, that have lost their job in the last 2 or 3 months? That's like, what, 1/3 of the U.S. working population? You have about 300 million or 320 million is the population, of which
I don't think it's been felt yet because they're getting assistance.
100%. Yeah, no doubt. The stuff's gonna hit the fan later this year. It's gonna have to.
Nobody I know.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Really seems that worried, other than you and me.
Well, I'm sure there's more people than us worried, believe me.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is...
But to your point, I believe...
Like, oh yeah, it's just another day.
Dude, I totally agree with you, bro. I mean, let's put it this way. People like you and I are the gross, maybe gross is extreme, but we're the minority. Yeah. Most people are just humming along. You know, business as usual. This is not business as usual. I don't give a hoot. I don't give a hoot what anybody says. Okay, this ain't business as usual.
I'm wrong a lot.
Huh?
I'm wrong a lot. I could be wrong again. You know.
Yeah. Well,
you could return to normal, and everybody would be like, "Happy days are here again."
Everything could return to normal. Really. So let me ask you this:
isn't that what the markets are pricing in? In fact, the markets are pricing better than normal. This
Okay.
is what happened is the market was like this when COVID hit, right? Then it went down, and now the markets are back up on that same trajectory.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that it's
Yeah.
like this with
Yeah.
a V.
Exactly. So
Like
so
that.
let me ask you this, and you think that happened on its own, naturally, through the natural market forces, without any intervention? You think that was the case? Because I don't.
No, of course. What's going on right now?
I'm
It's
not a
it's
PhD
spooky.
economist,
The
but
last
I
couple,
don't think that was the
oh,
case.
the last month it's been, and specifically the last week, it's
Yeah.
been parabolic,
Yeah. So here's the thing that kind of really
hyperbolic.
here's the thing that kind of really almost pisses me off is, none of our politicians, for example, I mean, do any of them ask the appropriate questions? Like, how does stuff like that happen? We're printing money like it's
No, I
out of
told you I
style.
contacted my local congressman,
I mean,
and
do any of these people?
he ignored my concern when I said you need to. What the Fed is doing is criminal,
And
and
he didn't even reply.
he replied to me, but
Oh,
he said, "Thank you for your question. I'd like you to support me on this bill that I'm supporting," which had
was the
nothing to do with the question that I asked him.
unbelievable? There you go. It's called denial, smoke and mirrors, whatever, avoidance.
Well, I've
I
said the
mean,
story a
look, the
hundred times.
reality is, not to interrupt, sorry. The reality is these are tough questions, okay? And here's how I look at it in a nutshell.
Not that hard.
We have a lot, well, but they are tough questions. We have systemic problems in this country, bottom line. And when I say that, some people get almost vehemently, I mean, like almost semi-violent with me.
Yeah, they'll tell you.
What are you talking
They'll
about,
tell you to
man?
leave it if you don't love it.
Exactly. And it's like, I didn't say that, okay? But what I'm saying is, you can't fix something if you're going to just be in total freaking denial,
That's
okay?
why it's going to have to fall apart completely, and people are going to have to hit rock bottom.
And we're in denial with a lot of massive, massive problems. We're in denial, and we're not addressing them, and our leaders aren't addressing it because we're not putting their feet to the fire. Because as a society, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. Right? So we're going to keep kicking this can down the road, and eventually it's going to blow up in our face, in my opinion.
That's
And
why I encourage.
maybe
That's
it
why I
won't.
encourage people to travel, because I don't think you wake
Oh,
up
geez.
until
Here
you
we
travel. And that's why I have my channel, is to hopefully encourage people. Do you know, and I don't know if this is still true, but a year or two ago, I read a report. Only 40% of people in this country have a passport.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's it, a quarter or a third? Even now, right now in 2020, where we're at, about a
Yeah, and you
40%.
can't go to Canada or Mexico without a passport anymore.
Right. Yeah. So we can't
go with a driver's license. And now you
Yeah.
can't even fly. Some states you can't even fly without a passport. Like New Hampshire, the license isn't recognized by the federal government, so you have to use a passport to fly.
Really?
Or another federal ID if you have like the Homeland Security ID.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but my point is that when you leave this country, in my opinion, if you spend it, I mean, if you just do the tourist circuit, maybe not. But when you start like involving yourself in the culture, like with locals, and really get to know a country, yeah, I mean, you'll see things that you don't like about it, but all of a sudden you start realizing that there's a different way of thinking than just what the United States thinks. And I think it's cathartic.
Yeah. Well, so I would say true. And
Because that's really what woke me up. That's when I realized, because I went to China in 2007, and I'm like, this country is nothing like we've been told to believe it is. I'm not talking about the government per se.
Well,
The
yeah, the
country
government,
itself.
yeah,
The country
Chinese
itself.
Communist Party is a different story. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. But here's the thing: is the people over there love their government. They really do. All of my friends will have told me. I was having a discussion with them this weekend, and three of them told me, they were really chastising me about the United States, and they're like, I trust my government. My government will do the right thing. Now, do I agree with them? No, but that's their point of view. How many? Now we have a percentage of people in our country who think the same thing, but
Mm.
yeah, and that doesn't even matter because government anywhere is a problem, in my opinion. No matter what country, usually they're the roadblock. So, but as far as like we've talked about, there's no panacea. There's no perfection. I'm not saying that these countries are better than the United States in every single way, but it just drives home. It drives home that, in my opinion, that this country, just for whatever reason, ignores the problems that we have, especially the corruption. I mean, the corruption in politics and in Wall Street are terminal.
Colossal too. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know
it's
how you can survive it. I mean, I'm not sure how we survive it now without a reset, unless we go to hyperinflation. Because we're going to have, according to, if we keep spending, we're accumulating, I think, $80 billion a day or $25 billion a day, I think.
it's some massive number, 50
So,
or 100 billion, some
right,
a day. I mean, it's atrociously huge. Yeah.
At this rate, we'll be at 45 trillion in 2 years, and that is not even counting these hidden pools of money like that video I sent you of that guy who found 21 trillion missing money.
Yeah, and then things they call like unfunded liabilities and stuff like that, and then it blows it up to like 100 trillion or something. I mean, the numbers are astronomical, and the average person, including myself, I guess I'm average, so that's fine, whatever. To try to wrap my head around that is it's mind-boggling. So, if we're having trouble wrapping our heads around it, my guess is the bulk of the politicians and stuff are as well, or maybe they're not even thinking about it. Apparently, they're not thinking about it because it just the way I see it, it's just doing this
Kick the can
spiraling higher and higher, right? So, I mean, I guess we're asleep at the switch, right? I mean, can that go on indefinitely? You're going to have a new monetary system sooner or later, right? I mean, I don't see how this can go on, and that's why you've got countries and particularly institutions. We don't have to throw names at them that tell you that precious metals and stuff are a joke, but they're behind the scenes,
accumulating,
stacking that stuff up like there's no tomorrow.
Well, and that's the thing is,
but they tell the average person, you're a cuckoo pop or whatever. What do you need that for? Just like I've had people say to me, even that I've said this to you before, like the Second Amendment. What do you need the Second Amendment for? We don't need that anymore. It's antiquated. Doesn't apply. Get rid of it. Okay. Go ahead, get rid of it. Let's see what happens, guys.
No,
that's my comment. Go ahead, throw it out.
The one I really like is
get rid of it.
They couldn't have anticipated weapons today. They only meant muskets.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You know what? Weapons evolve like everything, but a weapon's a weapon. You know what I mean? So, I mean, a weapon's a weapon or it's not a weapon. I guess it depends on whose hands it's in in what their intent is, right? I mean, I could use a rifle just to hunt or just for target practice for fun. I don't need to use it for anything else.
Well, you mentioned before about technology, and I mean, it's going to get to the point where you're not even going to be able to use the bathroom or do anything that you consider private without being monitored.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. That,
So
yeah, no,
they're gonna
I
know
agree. That's where we're
everything
going.
they're going to know everything you're doing. That's
Ab-
like from the movie 1984. That's what it was.
Dude,
You had to report to the TV.
I couldn't agree more, but you know what? But then the stupid argument to that is, well, Dave, if you're not a criminal and you're not doing anything, then, what do you got to worry about? What do you got to hide? Right? That's the argument. And
Well,
that's why we're at where we're at.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we're at where we're at. That's why you have the Patriot Act and everything else.
See, the biggest problem I have with all these rules and laws and oversight is that
Keeping track of it all.
law-abiding people like you and me are going to be the ones who are affected. The criminals are not going to be affected. They will not. They will find ways around all of this. They always do.
That, and then I would add, they don't play by the rules anyway. They never have. So it's like you want to put more rules in place, more regulations, more this, more that to make us feel whatever. Their attitude is, yeah, go ahead. Put some more stuff in place. Who cares? I don't subscribe to it anyway. I don't pay attention to it.
But this is how ignorant and stupid our society
is. Right? They're not worried about it.
This country actually passed an amendment to abolish alcohol.
Right? Yeah, prohibition, right?
So they fought a war, literally a war, against a black market for booze. There were speakeasies everywhere, right? I mean, every city and town had one. I mean, there's a place in Boston that used to be this, I forget the name of it, but we went into it. And upstairs was the restaurant, and you go through this double door behind the bar that looks like the bar, and it takes you down to the basement, which is where all the drinking was done.
There you go.
Basement. And today they make it part of the restaurant. But back then you'd have to know somebody to get down there, right?
And on top of it, what was interesting during that time, I mean, a lot of people got hurt and a lot of people got killed during that time, right?
That's why I said it was a war.
Yeah, exactly. It literally was a war, to your point.
Went after
people died.
Yeah, and they finally repealed it because they realized they were never going to win, right? So they actually passed another amendment to the Constitution that repealed that amendment.
Yeah.
So now we come into the war on drugs and the war on terror and the war on hunger and the war on
everything.
Fill in the blank. And I think most people are numb to it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Look, the average person, especially now, the way I see it in the U.S., they're just trying to get through their day, man, and through their week. And the wages have been stagnant since basically the 70s, right?
Yeah.
So, yet the cost of living keeps going up. Inflation's built in. Money keeps being printed. Interest rates are artificially low. And the bulk of the rank and file, whatever you want to call it, they're not benefiting. They can barely scrape by. That's why everybody has 2 or 3, I love this term, side hustle. That's just code for, oh, you mean you got 15 part-time jobs to pay the electricity bill and to keep the roof over your head. Side hustle, like you're getting ahead. Nobody's getting ahead. Most people can't. What was the statistic? 50% of Americans can't, if you on the spot told them to write $1,000 check or something?
400, I think.
Or $500 or something? Right? Like 50% can't even write a $500 check.
Yeah, they had an unexpected expense.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, on the spot. Yeah, an emergency. You need to cough up $500 for whatever, your car blew up or
Right. You need a new car, right?
whatever, your water heater in your basement popped, right? I mean,
They
I'm
pull
not
out the
trying to
card
make
and be
light
like,
of it. Yeah.
charge it.
Yeah. I mean, we all agree $500 is like not exactly a ton of money anymore, right? Or a lot of money, but yet you
Well,
got
when you
half
go
your
to the grocery
population.
store, I'll bet you spend at least 100.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a bag of groceries is 25, $30, just one
For
bag,
several people.
plus or minus, right? So if
Yeah,
you spend,
if I go to the supermarket and I get more than a few days worth of food, like I get some stocked items, then I'll easily spend $30, $40
oh,
because
yeah,
good food is expensive. And I mean, the prices are going up.
they're going up. They're going up. And the distribution supply, I've been reading and listening to a lot of videos and stuff, not to startle people, but is being affected greatly, shall we say. And in the coming months, we don't know how that's going to affect what's that going to do for food supply,
Well, if oil prices go back up, the price of oil going up is inflationary. Right now, right now people are, it's funny. Most people aren't driving as much as they did, so that's why the price
Right.
is down, right?
Right. Yeah, the demand is way down. It's like cut by more than 50% or something like that, the last I knew. It's huge.
Yeah, that's something that people probably should stockpile if they could, if they had a tank or something, because you're always going to use gasoline.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, unless you're growing your own vegetables in your backyard. But even then, what do you do for meat or chicken?
There's some guys that I read their work, and there's two that I follow, and they believe that everything is linked to the cost of energy, including population growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, if you think about, well, definitely, if you look at world population since 1900, I think the population around 1900, 1910, 1920 was around a billion plus or minus. And then it literally goes up like this over the last 100 years, right? Because of energy, and in particular, I guess, because of oil, right?
Yeah, I mean, energy has allowed, you know, our great grandparents probably spent a considerable amount of their time on making sure they had food for the day, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
hunting, planting,
Oh, yeah.
harvesting. I mean, we were, 150 years ago, we were an agrarian society.
Yeah. Probably 100. Yeah. Even 100, you could
Yeah,
say.
right towards
Like during the Great Depression, here's the interesting thing. During the Great Depression, I mean, the average person then was far more, compared to the average person now, I'm not trying to be disparaging, was far more, independent, self-sufficient, and reliant. Far more. I mean, they could grow
They had
food.
basic skills.
The bulk of them could grow food, could grow a garden, if not running a small farm, could mend a fence, build their house, fix a wall, whatever, work on a basic combustion engine, so on and so forth, milk the cow, everything they need to
Yeah,
do.
some of them could even make their own medicines.
100%.
Oh,
Butter,
use this, Dan,
butter,
use this.
butter, milk, whatever. And I don't want to be disparaging, but the average person today, I
But they
mean,
didn't watch TV back then. They didn't spend time on the computer back then.
right. They can't do a TV dinner for 3 minutes. It's like, right.
Right.
Yeah. And,
They couldn't
I won't,
rice-a-roni.
seriously.
Instant noodles.
Yeah. I mean, the average person can get their latte at Starbucks and operate their Apple phone, and then put the key in their car and turn the switch. They can do that. And I don't mean to be disparaging, but if the car didn't turn over, I think 95% of the population now wouldn't have the slightest idea.
Well, how many people would drain their batteries
And I'm not saying
their
I'm Joe
lights on?
Mechanic either, but I understand basic mechanics, and
Well,
can operate a
today
screwdriver.
today a car is not what cars used to be.
No, I agree. I mean, you need an
You can't do
electrical
anything with
engineering
you need a
degree. I
computer
get
in the
that.
car.
I get that, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. No, it's because you already touched on it. Today,
I did. Oh,
okay,
okay.
well, indirectly,
Oh,
it comes down to we only have 24 hours in the day. Before, 150 years ago, you used to spend several hours of your day foraging for food or collecting food or doing something, whether it's hunting, growing, you
yeah,
know
all
what
the
I'm saying?
basics. Yeah, the pure
Okay.
basics. Yeah, pretty much.
Today, you still have to spend a certain amount of hours, but now it's just, I mean, today you got to pay your taxes, you got to pay your bills, and don't forget your Netflix, right? I mean,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
these things
That's where the bulk of it goes. Yeah.
but that takes, I mean, people spend time commuting and a lot of time working.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially commuting in modern day, in and out of the cities. It's just,
Yeah,
especially in the Northeast.
that is one thing that will be interesting to watch is the things that I always thought were common sense
Hmm.
common sense that society didn't really go like, for example, I've always asked you, what's the point of high school, right? What's the point of school? I mean, if we have technology, we don't need brick and mortar today. And people would never have agreed to that a couple of years ago, but because of this uh, shutdown, I think more people now might be open to the idea that we don't need to spend 25% of our taxes on maintaining brick and mortar.
Yeah. I mean,
When it can be used on something else.
look what we're doing right now. I mean, you could have virtual classrooms. You could have the teacher here and the students bang into Zoom like we're doing now, and do part of the day that way, and then part of the day you got to work on your own assignments and do your homework anyway, that type of thing. Do you need all that physical infrastructure that we thought we needed in the past, right?
Well,
I mean, but
you need the social interaction, and I'm like, well, you can have that. You just set up a part of the day where you have sports or you have activities that require people to get together.
That's what I was going to say. What do you do about things like physical education and stuff like that, right?
Well,
And in sports teams and stuff like that, like how we grew up in school, junior high and high school in particular. I mean, what do you do about sports teams and stuff like that? Which are, most people would argue, good things, as I would. It's teaching kids healthy things, to be active and to
you can
think
still
about
have
being fit.
You can still have that. I mean,
Yeah.
because kids are still in schools, right? Kids are still living in your town. So
Yeah.
it just becomes a separate thing. I mean, you can use your phone probably to sign up for those things.
Well, you can, but it still would be a little different. Like the social aspect, like you said, the camaraderie. There's a camaraderie that comes with being co-located and being together and stuff like that. Particularly with sports teams, right? It's important.
I'm not saying you don't have. I'm saying that you can do that independently.
I'm not saying you
You
can't.
sign up for the local football team or baseball team, Dan.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's better because now everybody can make a team. You can just have 2 teams or 3 teams or 4 teams. Not everybody made high school baseball.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. True. People, you'd have to try out and you get cut or not.
But these are the things that and if you decide you don't want to do that, that should be your right. I mean,
Oh
again,
yeah,
we're
absolutely.
having
Yeah.
government decide these things.
We are because
Because now they
people.
can say to you, oh, well, I guess, Dan, you're not going to be able to go to school unless you get the vaccination card.
No, I know, and yeah, I know, and that concerns me because government's getting bigger and bigger and making more and more decisions for us because we're, as a whole, by default, we're not doing it ourselves, and we need to think for ourselves.
So
There's
what if the government comes and says, well, you're not going to be able to travel freely. You're going to have to be locked into your house unless you
I
have.
don't like. Yeah, I don't like any of that. I don't. None of that sits well with me. None.
No, of course not. But I mean, would you get the vaccine?
Well, hold on. You say of course not,
Julian
but
Assange? Yeah.
you say of course not, but there's a lot of people, and I've had debates with them where, well, it's for your protection. They're just trying to protect you. It's a seesaw, right? You want all this security, but you're going to give up this, or vice versa, right? That's how I see it, right?
But hasn't
They
government
don't go like this
proven
together.
their incompetence time after time after time, and yet people continue to expect them to come up with solutions? What is point to anything that government has done that has been successful?
Well, let me put it this way. Those are tough, poignant questions, and it depends on who you're asking. If you ask the government people themselves and the government officials, they'll probably fight you tooth and nail on that one.
Yeah, they'll be like, "Hey, that's you're safe because of us."
Exactly.
Right? You're getting your food because of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Elizabeth Warren will say, "Everything is because of us."
Exactly. Yeah.
I know what she'll say, but
what's her face out of New York?
but
the socialist. Yeah.
the reality is government would not have those funds if it wasn't for me and you and other people like us.
100%.
Because they generate
100%.
nothing, zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we pay for everything.
In fact, government for as long as I've been alive, and probably since the inception, all government does is picks winners and losers.
Yeah. That's it's a tough comment.
Well, they robbed Peter to pay Paul, number one. Now it's clear as day. I mean, they truly are picking who's going to be surviving. Sorry, Dan, your restaurant didn't survive, but Papa John's needs the money, and Amazon, and now.
Yeah. So then my question is,
short.
yeah, no, and I'm not disagreeing. So my question is, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that?
Well,
so we have a government doing certain things. We have officials doing certain things. Who put them in power? And who's what's the word I'm looking for? Almost indifferent or asleep at the switch as a result.
Yeah, I call it complicit.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I'm not. It's like anything. We're responsible. If you look at the problems in your life, if I look at the problems in my life, I'm probably 80% to blame for whatever. Sometimes things happen that.
And 100% in a lot of cases.
Right, 100% in a lot of cases. But sometimes, like there are some people out there who are sick where, yeah, maybe they were smokers or whatever, but some people didn't do anything and they just were at the wrong place at the wrong time, or car accidents, or, maybe, yeah, I'm sure there's lots of examples.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, though. Definitely. Definitely. So, I was going to say, yeah, this is going to run out.
You're a little bit deflated today.
I am. Yeah. Just one of those days again.
And it's only Monday.
I know. And then again, with the weekend, was trying to celebrate a little bit, but in lieu of everything, it's like, hard.
I didn't celebrate at all. I mean, there were a lot of fireworks,
Right.
huge, and I'm like, okay, that's good spending. There you go. I mean, I don't know why governments are spending money on fireworks. I'm sorry.
Well, that's a good point. We just proved with this one. I mean, there was a lot of individuals that had all kinds of great fireworks, particularly around here. Serious fireworks too. So,
Yeah,
just some.
fireworks. Yeah, I mean, I used to love it, but it's. I was thinking about that. I remember when I was a kid, I would buy. I remember I'd buy like $100 worth of fireworks, and back then that was a lot of
That was a
fireworks,
lot of money back then.
and
Absolutely.
I would get a lot of fireworks. Today,
Absolutely.
I'll bet you $100 might buy me a few packs of firecrackers today. I imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a couple of bottle rockets and stuff like that. Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't remember
hundred
the
bucks.
prices, but they were very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
You know,
Now I'd
somebody
say
would
that.
drive, yeah, somebody would drive down south of the border, down to
Mm,
South Carolina, and they'd load up a
yeah.
van and then bring them all back up to Connecticut.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Definitely.
You'd find out who the local. It's almost like finding out who the local dealer is.
Yeah. Exactly, dude.
The local firework dealer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
back then, I was thinking about this today. Actually, I'll never forget me and a couple of my good friends, the Brown boys. You all right? Yeah. Yeah, you're on.
Something going on.
What?
Something going on here. I gotta bug out.
All right, buddy. Peace.
Thank you. Thanks, dude. All right. I'll catch up with you. Okay.
See ya.
All right. Thanks. Bye.